Hey guys, TJ here with the Lawn Dad channel. Thanks for joining me. So today I've got something very special for you. So I am unboxing and assembling a Rolux x25. So this is their 25-inch model from Rolux North America. They are based out of South Africa, but as you saw from my previous video, I did a full tour of their warehouse. Well, I had this sitting on my front porch as soon as I got home, and I am very excited to share with you. So today we'll be unboxing it. I'll show you how to put it together, and also we might take it for a spin real quick. So stay tuned. All right, let's do this. Ooh. So this is how it comes in the box. We have our handle setup. All right, so first thing I'll take out is this grass catcher, which on the Rolux, this grass catcher is metal, but not super heavy, which is nice. Look at that X in there, that's pretty cool. All right, has a handle out front. And there we go. Front grass catcher assembled. All right, so once you get the grass catcher out, it comes with a couple instructions. This is a really cool booklet, a little bit more informational, but there's a lot of good info in here. All right, so now that we have all the packaging gone, we now have our mower, and the really nice thing is this is such an easy assembly. There's really only like 3 pieces that we have to put together. So that means less time assembling, more time mowing. So let's get at it. First things first, this is the arm. So right here is the arm that attaches to the mower, which attaches to the handlebars. So this is one of the most important pieces, and we need to get it right. So one thing to note is there's a flat part and there's an open part. This open part is going to be facing up. You do not want to put the flat part up. You want to put the open part up, and I'll show you a close up here in a second. So you really want to make sure that the cables are going to be below this attachment. You do not want them above. So again, make sure that the open part is facing the engine and the cables themselves are below this assembly. So there's a cool feature on this mower that it does allow you to adjust the handlebars based on comfort, based on height, however you want to adjust it. But there are half moon holes right here in this assembly to allow you to make it lower if you want to, if you're a little bit shorter. Or for me, since I'm 6'6", I'm just going to be jacking it up all the way. So it does have that adjustment capability of swinging down or up. So for me, I'm putting it all the way up because I am a little bit taller, but just so you know that there is an adjustment capability to this. All right, so now that we have these bolts hand tightened, this is a point to where it's going to differ for each person. One, if you're not sure of where this handle placement should be or this assembly placement should be, if you're taller, it's going to be out forward. If you're shorter, it's going to be out back. Some people have it in the middle. So if you're not sure, you're gonna tighten these, but not tighten them all the way. You're going to wait until it gets on flat ground to where you're standing behind it to where you can set that handle height once it's all assembled, and then you can tighten it all the way down. But for me, since I'm tall, I know that I'm going to be putting it all the way up. So right now I'm going to be tightening it all the way. These bolts right here are 13 millimeter. So I've got a 13 millimeter socket with an extension, and then I also have a 13 millimeter wrench that I'm putting this together with. So now that we have this handle assembly put together, now we're going to pop off these quick screws right here. This right here is going to be the through bolt that goes through the handlebars, but this one is a 17 millimeter on this head. This nut is also 17 millimeter, so I'm going to be getting a 17 millimeter socket, 17 millimeter wrench for this next step. This right here This nut and this bolt are going to be your typical 13 millimeter as well. So again, I'm using a wrench and a socket for these two. This is where it's crucial that you have the cables behind this assembly first, when you first start and when you put this on, because if you get to this point and the cables are above this, well, we all know what happens then. So I'm going to put this on here and then take this through bolt, put it through this. So I've got the through bolt in here, and then I also have this nut right here. So I'm going to hold this up right here, tighten it by hand. And again, I'm just doing this by hand just to make sure that it gets in there. 17 millimeter socket and the 17 millimeter wrench. I'm going to tighten this up just a tad, just so it's not freely moving all over the place while I'm installing this. So it's gonna be a tad bit loose for now. I'm not tightening it super tight, but it's gonna be a little bit loose, but that is tightened. All right, so next we're going to install this plate right here, and this is going to go right here. So first I'm gonna take this nut off, like that. And then that bolt that we took out when we put these handlebars on, we're going to reinstall it. And the bolt is going to go from underneath, go through this hole right here. We're going to install that bolt right there. So then this plate goes right on top. Make sure that the Rolux is facing the right way, not upside down. That right there. And it will go right on, and we're going to use these acorn nuts to hold that plate on. So there's one, and then this other one that I took off from right here. So now we're going to tighten everything up right here. Again, these are 13 millimeter bolts. So I'm going to hold it up front and tighten from the back. And then this one, you just kind of hold this, and we're going to tighten this just like that. So at this point, you should have a fairly solid mower, unless if you left those bolts at the bottom assembly, unless you left those a little bit loose, then this one will go up and down. But for me, I tightened them already, so it's a little bit, it's pretty stiff. All right, so for me, I like to take care of these cables. This isn't a required step, this is just personally, but I'm gonna go ahead and zip tie these cables a little bit closer to the engine, just so it's not hanging in my way or anything like that. And then also on camera, it looks better. So now that we have the Rolux assembled, it's looking great, but it needs to cut great. In order to do that, we need to put some oil in it. Do not pass this step, do not skip this step, please don't. Otherwise, you're not gonna be mowing at all. So Rolux does send this oil right here. This is the perfect amount that you will put into this Honda engine. Do not use a little bit of it, do not use half of it, use all of it, just dump it in. It can get to a point to where it is kind of spilling out while you're pouring it. So that's why I like to use a little 2x4. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it underneath it just so it has a little bit of tilt back. And then I'm gonna be using a funnel. You can use any funnel, it doesn't have to be this big, but we're gonna be putting it in this oil hole right here. Again, use all of it. All right, now that we have it all in there, we're going to tighten this up. And then we're gonna take this piece of wood out, let it sit. We are not done. We got one more step. Let's put some gas in it. A couple quick controls that I want to show you before we do start it up, before we get to mowing, is these controls right here. So right here, this lever right here is going to be your speed. The harder you pull it, the faster it goes. The less you pull it, the slower you'll go. So if you get to a position to where you're trying to go around a tree or something like that, you do not have to have this pulled in and it will still go and cut. If you want to go, if you're at an open space and you're going wide open, you can pull it all the way to the handle and it will go as fast as possible. All right, and right here is gonna be your throttle settings. So this is what controls like the rev of your motor, how high the motor runs. It also does affect the speed. So at a lower throttle, you will go at a lower speed at full blast. At a higher throttle, your engine will be louder and it will go faster and more aggressive. Typically, I like setting mine sort of like in the 3 to 4 range maybe, but 1 is going to be where your engine is going really high, it's going as full blast. I typically will never cut with any mower on that highest throttle. So 1 is going to be your highest. When you first start this thing up, make sure that this is going to be at 7. When you're starting it up, make sure it's at 7 at low throttle until it's warmed up, and then you can start going into like the 5, 4, 3 range. But like I said, I really like kind of cutting in that 3 to 4 range. You don't need to go all the way up, but it does depend on the grass that you're cutting and your terrain. If it's hilly, if you're cutting through a lot of grass, maybe you do have to go all the way up in that throttle, but most of the time, if you're just maintaining your yard, kind of stick to that 3-ish mark, but again, it's gonna depend on the person. And then the last thing that I wanna show you is gonna be your height of cut knob. So this, as real mowers, we love cutting low. We love the capabilities of being able to cut low and at different heights. But this right here is going to be your height of cut adjustment. So if you turn it left, it goes higher. If you turn it right, it goes lower. So you're gonna have to figure out what your grass is at currently and set this to where you want to cut. There is a height indicator on the right-hand side. So you're gonna have to do a little bit of math, but this mower was built in South Africa, so they do use millimeter, which I think is pretty cool, so we can all start talking millimeters now. But you're gonna have to figure out what your grass is at, and you want to maintain at that level. If you're used to cutting with a much lighter machine, like a McLean or a California trimmer, something that's lighter than this, I would definitely start a little bit higher than what you think and work your way down, rather than just assuming that you're cutting at 1 inch and go right at 1 inch in this. Because this is a heavier machine, it actually will cut a little bit truer and a little bit truer to the inch, so you may end up scalping. So if you don't want to scalp, start a little bit higher, then go down. All right, so this is the Honda GX 160 engine. You can choose a Briggs & Stratton engine, so if you did choose the Briggs & Stratton engine, this will be a little bit different for you, but generally it's going to be similar. So a couple quick controls on here. This right here, this black lever, is going to be your gas on and off. If you are storing it for the winter, if you are storing it for an extended period of time, or you just simply don't like your gas line on, this, you'll be pulling it towards you, towards the person walking, and you can see it right here. This is off and this is on. So before you start it, make sure that this black lever is on the on position. And then right here is going to be your choke. So this is your choke. This towards you means the choke is on. This is what you're going to start a cold engine at. So right this second, I'm going to put it onto this. If it's been sitting for the weekend, if it's been sitting for a couple days and you're freshly starting it, make sure that this is pointed towards the back, towards the person walking at the mower, towards the left. That will give you your choke, that will allow it to start. And then as soon as it gets warm, as soon as it's running, you're gonna push it over to full. So choke off. So when we are starting it right now, we're going to do it as choke on, and then as soon as it starts up and is running for a second, then we're going to switch it to choke off. Another brief thing is, if this is your first Honda engine or first time with a real mower or something to this caliber, this is going to be your on-off switch. So anytime you are looking to start this engine, make sure that this right here is on the on position. There's an off and an on. If you're trying to start this in the off position, you are going to hurt yourself. I don't want that to happen. So anytime you're starting this engine, make sure it is in the on position. If you've been pulling the mower and it hasn't been starting, you're like trying to figure out and you're calling Rolux for support, figuring out what's going on, they're gonna say, is it on the on position? I know it's a stupid question, but if it's not, you're gonna look real dumb. So don't do that. Make sure it's on the on position. And then whenever you are done mowing and you're in the garage or you're ready to turn it off, all you simply do is just hit it off and that kills it. So a couple quick control things right there, but let's get mowing. Thanks guys for joining me on this assembly video and my first mow with this. If you guys are interested in pricing in different models, in different sizes, check out the description below. I've got a link down there that takes you right to the Rolux site. But other than that, happy mowing.